Welcome to the stream, Jen. How are you doing?
Jen, great to see you.
Good to see you all.
There was a world where we didn't talk and I just hit the size column button
the entire
over
time.
and over and over and over and over. And it's just a 10-minute segment of just us.
Yeah, why don't you
around.
kick us off with how much money you've raised for Andreessen so we can just get Jordy an easy layup here?
All right, let's do it. By the way, for the audience, I told Jordy ahead of time, my sole intention is to have all the sound effects pop off the entire time I'm talking here.
Let's get the Ashley Hall sound effect.
Yeah, there we go.
Welcome to the stream,
Let's
Jen.
go.
Welcome to the stream. Let's go.
By the way, as KV said a few weeks ago, first-time caller, long-time listener. But before
Amazing.
we get into the content, I have to do just a quick plug for your true early fans. You know, I know you had to do the gift guide for the Super Bowl of pronatalism, right?
Yes.
You had to cover tariffs. You had to cover drug pricing. There's a lot happening. But before we get to the real topics, it's been a while since you've talked about Amon property rankings.
Yes.
It has. It has.
Well,
we need to bring that back. Why don't you come on with us
600.
why don't you join us for the updated power ranking of Amon properties?
Exactly.
This is the news that moves Silicon Valley for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get kind of like a goat debate going. Yeah.
Anyways, by way of context, so I've raised over $43 billion in capital at over the course of my career. Most of that was at
Congratulations.
But I spend all my time across all the funds. So across crypto summers, tech winters, everything in between. I'm the professional yapper to the capital behind the capital. So the LPs. So that's where I spend all my time.
What's it like having everybody, or not everybody, but many people under the same roof? I'm surprised you have even 10 minutes to get away today. You're probably one of the more popular people in the room.
Well, it's definitely the quiet before the storm right now. So things are kicking off here shortly, but it's it's awesome. It is. There's a lot obviously happening in the world today, and also our LPs are busy people. Last week was Milken. This week was the Saudi conference. There's a lot on everyone's minds. We could talk about what's happening with the endowments, and people are looking for some optimism. We're probably the bright spot in their portfolio right now, and so as a part of that, it's exciting to gather everyone here.
Yeah, there's a lot of like hot take and micro themes around. Oh, if there's if Harvard goes for profit or something, that's going to flood a huge amount of endowment money out of venture capital, or Yale's going to sell their stakes or something like that. But can you talk about some of the more macro themes if we zoom out the last 10 years or more? How have trends changed in the LP base of venture capital more broadly?
Yeah, well, the asset class has definitely gotten obviously a lot more sophisticated, right? It used to be a small cottage industry, and the asset class has just grown alongside, of course, the outcomes. And so as a result of that, the sophistication level of not only the venture capitalists, but also the expansion of LPs have commensurately changed as a part of that. So you just don't have endowments or foundations or family offices investing. That's expanded to sovereigns now, who have a different type of opportunity cost of capital. And then you have big pensions now actively playing the game as well. So CalPERS, for example, very famously missed out on the last 10, 15 years of returns, and now they're making up for lost time as a part of that. Wow. And so traditional pools that didn't used to invest into the asset class are now wanting a seat at the table, largely, again, because increasingly the percentage of GDP that's being taken over by tech has just exploded. I heard you mention to Eric, NVIDIA is about to be this monster of a company, just jumped up.
About to be.
It's only $60 billion gap between.
I checked this morning, so get this.
Yeah.
So NVIDIA, Apple, and Microsoft independently are bigger than the entire stock market of most of the G7 countries. So Germany, UK, France, like it is wild. It's actually bigger. These three companies are bigger than all the G7 countries, except obviously for the US and Japan.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the international stuff,
a month ago people were buying French bonds. So,
it was a mistake.
So it's good to see.
What is kind of the trade imbalance, the trade flow in terms of venture capital? I imagine there's a lot of money flowing internationally into American venture capital firms, but VC funds also invest abroad and internationally. Is there a trade imbalance there? Is there more money flowing into America than flowing out, or is it kind of 50-50? Like, how has that evolved?
Yeah, so I will only speak for A16Z.
Sure.
So A16Z is still 90% plus in North America. That being said, our portfolio companies though spend a lot of time abroad and focus on a lot of distribution as a part of that. So I heard your Saudi correspondent yesterday mention that folks in the defense in Saudi, all of a sudden are like, we want Anduril, we want Saronic, we want all these early stage technologies. And guess what? Every country wants to modernize their government. They want Silicon Valley tech on speed dial. Yeah. And so there's a massive interest in all areas, especially in our American dynamism practice, for new technologies, and they want to replatform to the new AI age. And so we actually at A16Z have brought over almost close to 300 plus companies around the world, spending a lot of time in Saudi and also the broader GCC. And particularly, it's funny. I was watching the Qatari motorcade welcome Trump earlier today, and like they went so hard on it. But it's that kind of classic thing where they're going to go to the best technology first foremost. And so as a part of that, that is the leading driver of wherever trade actually ultimately goes to.
What is the takeaway from Saudi Arabia and what's going on with KSA and MBS? How are you thinking about Saudi Arabia more broadly these days?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time there, largely again to help our portfolio companies with expansion, and MBS is pretty phenomenal. Everyone's talking yesterday a lot about Trump and how the vibe has shifted, right? America's so back, right? Yeah. And I feel like that deserved a gong. Jordy, like,
hit it. America's back.
I was caught sleeping.
You're sleeping at the wheel. You gotta be on top of it.
I got more here. I'll stay. I'll keep the soundboard up and you just keep going.
Good.
But MVS is like an amazing leader, right? Everyone's talking about Trump, but I think the other part of this is like in the 8 years since Trump's first visit, MBS was basically able to get every tech leader in the world at that conference, right? He's absolutely crushed. And the whole country, by the way, his people love him. They all have, if you go to the country and you see people's cell phones, they have MBS's photo as their background on their phone. And then if you WhatsApp with people, their profile picture is MBS, which makes it obviously very confusing. Yeah. But when was the last time a world leader was as beloved as he has been? And that's largely, again, because he's very conscious of the fact that the future needs to be tech first. He's got 70% of the population under 35, and that population is watching Netflix and YouTube. And so he's very conscious of the fact that he needs to modernize his country as a part of that, and he's retooling all the capital away from oil into tech as a part of that.
Very cool. Well, last question, then we got to move on.
Yeah, what are people getting? You are one of the co-creators of a mega fund. What do people get wrong about in the sort of mega fund debate? Because oftentimes the people that are debating have sub 9 figures of AUM, and I just think it's like unless you're playing, unless you're in the arena,
the big ones scare me.
The big ones scare them, but yeah, what are people getting wrong about the mega fund debate today?
Yeah, it's a totally different game, and obviously, again, I'll only speak for ourselves. What we're playing is very different than obviously seed funds and small emerging managers are playing. So it's very, very difficult to paint the broad paintbrush across every type of venture capital firm. But I think the premise of it still holds true. So I heard Eric mention this earlier. Mark pioneered the term "software's eating the world," and the reality is software didn't just eat it; it DoorDashed it, it devoured it, it asked for seconds, right? And so everyone's obviously now playing catch up as a part of it relative to this massive opportunity, but also more importantly, firms haven't scaled. Most VC firms haven't scaled to reflect that. And so from a capital standpoint, not only have we scaled the capital, but we've also scaled the firm as a part of it. So if you look at every single team at A16Z, it's actually no bigger than the original incarnation of A16Z. So the deal teams are actually pretty small. They're no bigger than 4 to 6 people. So every vertical that you'll talk to today has a deal team focus that is much more oriented around not only that vertical, but also making sure that the fidelity of conversation that you have is super high. Because otherwise, as you've scaled the firm, if you have too many people around a table, it ends up being like a presentation, right? And so when we think about the firm, that's the big part that we focus on. Like, have we actually not only made sure we've scaled the capital to reflect the market opportunity, but also have we also scaled the firm to reflect how we actually want to run the organization and making sure we're actually covering each vertical with that domain level expertise.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
I mean, my contribution to the mega fund debate is if you ask a Series C or D founder, hey, are you happy that there's potentially hundreds of millions or billions of dollars available to you to raise in the private markets? Are they going to be like, no, I'd rather do a small cap IPO and be spend years dragging it out in the public markets
SEC
before
in every financial statement.
I think that should end the debate by itself.
No,
Jen, it's fantastic having you on. The crowd loved it too.
The crowd
I gotta
loved
say.
it. Thank you so much.
Come back on again soon. This was great. We'll do the Amon power ranking together. I
Awesome.
can't wait.
Talk to you soon. Catch you later.
Bye.
Have a great event.